if you're trying to do this yourself, especially if techie stuff and advertising and marketing and ad copy and all that is not your forte, I would not recommend it. It's just a great way to just waste your time and money. And it's one thing, like you can always make more money, right? But you can never get that time back. That time you waste with all these duds and all the chaff, you can never get that time back. All that energy you poured out, you can never get it back. Most Facebook ads are a complete waste of time, energy, and money. So obviously it's at your own risk to proceed, but there are some ways to make it work.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Art of Mortgage Marketing podcast. I am here today with the one and only Doran Aldana. I'm your host, Penny Wrightly, and today we are here to share with you something absolutely amazing. It is a very popular and hot topic. Today we are going to be talking about Facebook ad essentials. So Doran is going to be telling you guys some really amazing, cool things today. So I'm super excited. Doran, welcome. Please, open up the floor and let's get started today. I am super pumped for today's episode.
Sounds good. You don't have to ask me twice. I'm ready. Let's go. Excited to dive in on this topic. I can tell you I've spoken to so many mortgage pros over the last 2 decades, and I can't even think of 2 in the last 5 years that have told me they're winning with Facebook ads. So it's not something that is easy to thread the needle on. Unfortunately, a lot of mortgage pros crash and burn when it comes to Facebook ads. And of course, you and I both know, Penny, that when you were a student at mortgagemarketingcoach.com on Plan to Prosper, one of the things we used to do is actually do done for you Facebook ads. We would do all the targeting and all the page setups and all the automation and the follow-up. And, there's a lot of work involved in not only the copy, the targeting, the managing, but of course, then setting up the automated follow-up. And we did that, and we did it relatively successfully for most people, you being one of them, Penny. I know you crushed it back in the day, 2018. That was like the heydays of targeting on Facebook. But of course, things have changed a lot since then.
You got it.
And the game has changed on so many levels. Algorithms have changed, and the way, the target keeps moving. Facebook keeps moving the target. It's hard to, actually hit the bullseye consistently because they keep moving the target. So we're going to give you kind of the latest and greatest of what's working now when it comes to Facebook ads and some things to be aware of and what every mortgage pro needs to know about Facebook ads in 2024 as we are about to turn the corner into a new year. And as I keep saying, 2025 is your year to thrive, but you can't thrive if your ads and your marketing is taking a nosedive, right? So we want to make sure you're threading that needle. So excited to dive in with you today on this, Penny.
You got it. I'm super excited to dive in as well. And as you said, Doran, 2018 was definitely a very different time than what we're seeing today. And so I think this is a great topic for us to be covering today because it's often a question that comes up, like, Facebook ads, do we do them? Do we not do them? What's working? What's not working? So I'm super pumped to jump into this. So why don't we just jump into question number 1 here? I think we'll just dive right in. Let's go in while it's hot here. So let's talk about what are the 3 top, landmines, problems that you're seeing that most mortgage pros fall prey to when doing Facebook ads? Let's just jump right into those. What are you seeing as the top 3 landmines?
Yeah, well, the first is just having the wrong priority of things. Unfortunately, the definition of success with Facebook ads usually is not clarified and crystallized when people dive into Facebook ads. They just want leads, and they're like, I'll do anything to get leads. If I need to spend a few bucks on Facebook as a test, so be it. They're just desperate. It's usually an act of desperation. And so it's not like they're being strategic. Like, first, I'm going to build a strong stable of top producing realtors, for example, who can send me 1, 2, 3 deals a month. And then, second, I'm going to make sure my database is dialed in. So I'm maximizing repeat and referral business and rate reviews. And then if I'm still wanting to supplement my lead streams and put a little cherry on top, then maybe I'll do some Facebook ads. That's generally not how mortgage pros think, right? Instead, they're like, I have no leads. Oh, crap. What do I do? And they just go in complete freak out mode and they think, okay, what's the easy button? And of course, they see and hear about other people, whether it be on YouTube, instructional videos, or whether it be their peers. They're like, I'm doing Facebook ads. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And they're like, okay, me too. And they just kind of jump on the bandwagon. and they're not strategic about what the proper priority of attacking this is, such that most mortgage pros are kind of like stepping over dollars to pick up dimes.
Yeah.
They're stepping over the big checks to try and cash the small ones. And that's generally not a good strategic move. So I'd say the biggest thing is like they don't really know what success means to them when it comes to what they're actually wanting to accomplish. They're just in scramble mode. And that tends not to produce the best results. So I recommend looking at, okay, what does success look like to you? What's the outcome you want to achieve? Chances are it's you want to hit a certain amount of volume, a certain amount of income with the least amount of time, energy, and effort, right? Like,
yes.
For example, maybe it's like, I want to make, for very simple and easy terms, $100,000 working 35 hours a week. For some people, they may deem that success. So that's a very measurable and specific outcome. Then the question is, what is the shortest path to the cash to get to that outcome? And usually it doesn't start with, okay, the shortest path to the cash is jacking up my credit card with a bunch of shit leads off the internet, most of which are Billy Bob living in mama's basement that, he works part-time and he's in delusional optimism to even think that he can even get close to qualifying for a mortgage, maybe in a trailer park in 5 to 10 years, but certainly not a single family dwelling. And that's what you're getting for leads. That's probably not going to be the shortest path to the cash outcome to get to 100K working 35 hours a week. That's a great way to sift through a mountain of gravel just to find a few gold nuggets. Generally speaking, that's a great way to do it. And if your goal is to work longer and harder for less, then knock yourself out. And this is going to be a great strategy for you. A whole bunch of chaff, very few kernels.
Yes.
Now, I hate to rain on your parade. If you're a digital marketer and this is your superpower, you might be like, why are you raining on my parade? This is the bomb diggity. I like Facebook leads. Well, you're the rare exception. Most mortgage pros don't have the same experience. So that'd be the first thing. The other thing is just wrong expectations. Not only do they not really know what the success definition is for them, and they don't think about strategically around what the best and highest priority is and the best action plan to get to that outcome, they have the wrong expectations. They're in that la-la land of like, okay, I'm going to just give Facebook my credit card and I'm going to get a bunch of borrowers who are ready to do a mortgage right away. And that's just not the case. What you're going to find, if you hadn't noticed by now, is most of them are going to be chaff. Very few are going to be kernels. At best, you're lucky if at best you get maybe 1%, 2%, 3% to convert. And that's when you're doing pretty well, believe it or not. If you're getting 3% on your Facebook ads, you're knocking it out of the park, especially if you're living in California and your average commission per deal is like 5K, right? As opposed to much of the other locations that might be closer to 2,500, 1,500 for that type of, caliber of borrower. Because again, Facebook ads are generally going to be entry level, first time home buyers, maybe townhomes at best, with rare exception. And so your average commission per deal is way down. And then your margins are way down because you've jacked up your credit card on all of these Facebook ad spend costs. And so you're not making, let's say your average commission per deal is normally like 3K. Well, because this is a entry level borrower, you're already knocking it down to maybe 2K. Yes. And then you spend $1,000 on ad spend. So now you're actually making 1K. And then you just spent 10 times longer to convert that deal because you have to also compute in all the chaff you had to sift and sort through, all the duds versus the studs, and all the interviews that went nowhere, all the discovery meetings that went nowhere. You have to compute all that in. So when you compute it all in, it's like, seriously, I'm almost better off being a barista at Starbucks. At least I get some benefits and some consistent pay versus this crap, right? So again, just delusional optimism, and they just have the wrong expectations, erroneous expectations, delusional expectations. Now, I'm not saying that Facebook ads are not a good tool. I do Facebook ads. I've spent millions on Facebook ads. I hate to admit it because frankly, I don't think it's something to be braggadocious about how many millions you spent on Facebook ads or any advertising for that matter. What you should be bragging about is your profits, how much you actually profit at the end of the day, because that's what really matters. It took me 2 decades on the front lines of capitalism to actually figure that out. I know I'm not very smart, right? To realize there's a big difference between revenue and profit. And profit is, at the end of the day, that's all that matters. That's the game we're in, right?
Yes, of course.
So it took me a while to figure it out. I finally figured it out. So that's probably the second thing, is just the wrong expectations. And then the third thing is, I mean, it was hard, frankly, Penny, to choose the third thing, because there's a lot of things that I could be throwing in that top three.
Definitely.
But clearly, one of the top three that you guys all need to know about, that I'd be remiss not to share, is when you try to do this, if you're trying to do it yourself and this is not your superpower, then that is a great way to have a big black hole to just throw your money away and never see it again. Just have it take wings and fly away.
Yeah.
So if you're a do-it-yourselfer, it's one thing if you can just rock a YouTube video to fix a pipe underneath your sink at home. Sure, if you're handy, you can pull that off. But if you're trying to do that using YouTube ads to figure out how to thread the needle on a winning Facebook campaign, that's a different story, because they don't disclose that kind of stuff in fine detail, step by step on YouTube. You can't,
certainly not for free.
No, I mean, exactly, right? So you're not going to get free stuff that's going to give you the secret sauce on how to do this. In fact, even if you pay for Facebook ad training, and I've talked to an innumerable amount of mortgage pros who have spent tens of thousands of dollars on courses that teach you supposedly the secret sauce on how to do Facebook ads. And even those guys are like, no, got nothing. Or I jacked up my credit card, spent 20 grand, got nothing. Or I got one deal, it was still a complete waste of time, energy, and money.
Wow.
So it's like, even if you pay for the Facebook ad training, that doesn't necessarily guarantee success, but it certainly increases the chance of failure 10x, 20x, 100x if you're trying to do this yourself, especially if techie stuff and advertising and marketing and ad copy and all that is not your forte. I would not recommend it. It's just a great way to just waste your time and money. And it's one thing, like, you can always make more money, right? But you can never get that time back. That time you waste with all these duds and all the chaff and, all of the churn, you can never get that time back. All that energy you poured out, you can never get it back. So those are the top three things, Penny, that I think every mortgage pro needs to know in terms of the landmines to steer clear of.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's certainly an interesting list for sure. Like there's quite a few there that I'm kind of wanting to steer away from myself as I'm looking at these. I'm going, wow, that's kind of a scary list. So as we're looking at these, those are some scary things to be considering, right? Like, wow, myself, I'm looking at it and going, well, I certainly don't want to be navigating these myself. But let's just say if somebody is ready to take that risk and they're kind of going, you know what, maybe I still want to kind of give this a go. So let's just say someone is, ready to take that risk of paying for Facebook ads. What are some of the things that they should know? What are some of the essentials that they should know and be prepared for?
Right.
Let's dive into that one.
If that's you, either you're completely delusionally optimistic and you're just like, I'm doing this thing because everyone else is doing it, or I'm doing this thing because I'm a digital marketer. I'm a badass at digital marketing. And if that's the case, that's awesome. I've got some good stuff to share with you momentarily. But I would recommend, before you go any further, rewind the tape and listen to what I just shared around the three landmines and make sure you're not falling prey to any of those. Because if you don't, you're going to step into them and you're going to be kicking yourself, wishing you paid more attention to what I said in the answer to the three landmines question, because those three landmines, most people, frankly, are going to fall into them and they're going to regret it. And I don't want that to be you. So go back, make sure you watch that. Maybe you need to listen to it 3 times and make sure you're not skipping the line on those things. Okay, so let's say, hypothetically speaking, you've navigated past those 3 landmines. You're like, I'm good. I'm cool. Right? I'm good. I got this. Let's talk about how we can do this and actually make it work. A few things to consider on this. Most Facebook ads, like I mentioned already, are a complete waste of time, energy, and money. So obviously it's at your own risk to proceed. But there are some ways to make it work. I still pay tens of thousands of dollars to Facebook. And while it's been a challenge to generate consistently growing profit on it, because things are always changing, the target keeps moving. So it's not like it's easy. When it comes to doing this right, I want to just give you a few things to consider. The first thing is, most people scrolling on Facebook, like I said before, don't qualify for a mortgage. So keep in mind, this is, for the most part, the at least 90% of people scrolling on Facebook are going to be those entry-level first-time homebuyer people who have bad credit, who maybe got a few pop cans saved up in the garage for their down payment. And that's about as good as you're going to get. So targeting is the biggest challenge on Facebook. That's one of the biggest reasons why we had our Facebook ads castrated somewhere around 2000, late 2019, 2000, because they changed the algorithm with the targeting on Facebook. And that's when we just decided we're going to axe this thing. We're not going to offer done for you Facebook ad service anymore, because we hit the point of diminishing returns. And the main reason why is because the targeting got castrated. We got completely derailed. The carpet got pulled up from underneath us, and we were no longer able to target people like we used to. I mean, in an ideal world, you could target income range, you could target employment, you could target, specific niches in a way that doesn't cost you an arm and a leg per click. But the problem is the more you target people, whether you're targeting, for example, elderly people for reverse mortgages, or veterans for a VA loan if you're in the US, or whether it be targeting any specific niche, even realtors, for example, doctors, nurses, firemen, you name it. The narrower you try to get in the targeting, the more you're going to pay per click. And then your challenge becomes, how do I do this profitable where it actually makes sense? Because you don't want to be closing a deal where you started at making 3K, and at the end of the day, you're making a G note. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of squeeze without enough juice. So the targeting is really the biggest challenge that you want to figure out how to thread the needle on if you're going ahead with Facebook advertising. And indeed, there are riches in niches. Those niches I just talked about, those examples, veterans, doctors, nurses, even targeting referral partners like realtors. You can do it on Facebook. Don't take my word on it, whether you can target them profitably, but there are ways to target these people on Facebook. The question is, can you do it profitably? Now, when it comes to doing this, you want to make sure you're threading the needle on a method to get their attention. Because again, you're paying per impression, right? You're paying per click, but you're really also paying for impressions. So when they see your ad, so you need to have the right imagery that grabs their attention. You need to have the right copy in marketing speak. And the best method I've found, and I've spent, like I said, over 7 figures on Facebook ads over 2 decades. And I'm not even frankly feeling like that's a good thing to talk about, but I've made a lot of mistakes. And so I'm sharing this with you. And after making a lot of mistakes, the best method I've found to get people's attention, aside from some eye-catching imagery, and I love to use video. So I love to take people from scrolling to stopping to clicking to watching a video. The copy, I always like to use the problem, agitate, solve. So what's the problem that they have? So for example, if you were doing a reverse mortgage ad, assuming that Facebook still allows us to target these people, and by the time you listen to this, it may change such that you're not even able to target these people. Same thing with veterans, same thing with any specific niche. So the targeting is always the challenge, but assuming you're able to target them, you want to enter their mind and get connected to what is their plight, what is their pain as it relates to the problem you can solve. So for elderly people who are house rich and cash poor, it's like, that's exactly it. They're house rich and cash poor. They can't sleep at night. They're worried about their future. But the problem is elderly people are not going to be on Facebook. So then you have the other challenge, right? Like you're not going to reach a large number of these people on Facebook because they're just not techie people. So then that one's out the door, right? So then it's like, okay, what about realtors? Well, I could target realtors, but realtors, you're not getting a direct borrower deal from. You're trying to actually get them as a partnership. So then it's like, okay, what am I going to do to get them to want what I've got? Well, it's probably not going to be saying great rates, great service. It's more like, hey, do you have deals imploding at the 11th hour? Are you sick and tired of having mortgage pros wasting your time trying to leech loans from you? Are you ready to actually have someone who actually can bring you business instead of just take business? But then you're like, well, realtors, why would I do a Facebook ad when I can just text them and call them? So then notice how on each point, you're actually, if you're thinking strategically, you're like, nope, Facebook ad is not the method to use there. Nope, Facebook ad is not the method to use there. So at each one of these niches, you want to ask yourself, like, is Facebook the best way to reach them?
Right.
And if the answer is no, Why are you bothering with problem, agitate, solve on Facebook? Why are you bothering with jacking up your credit card?
Yes.
So, is that making sense so far, Penny?
Big time. Absolutely. At the
So,
end of the day, I'm looking at it and I'm going, even if I did want to run the ads, I don't really know if I want to.
right. And it's like even doctors, there's not many doctors on Facebook, believe it or not. I mean, the higher the
Have
income,
time.
the higher the income, the less likely they're scrolling on Facebook. That's just,
Yes.
and that's why you get a lot of entry level first time buyer type people, Billy Bob living out of mama's basement, because those are the people wasting their time on Facebook. Right.
Right.
So then again, it's like you want to have the market to message media match. And if you're looking for someone who has a good income and is highly qualified to get a mortgage, chances are getting referrals through a top producing realtor is going to be a way better source of those type of clientele than someone scrolling on Facebook 9 times out of 10. Nurses, doctors, probably not. If you can reach them, you're going to be paying up the wazoo for clicks because there's such a small number of them, because most of them just aren't scrolling. Now, veterans, if you're in the US, veterans could be a good one because there is a relatively high population. And if you are using a bigger scope of location, so instead of targeting just a city, you can target a whole state, or instead of targeting just one state, you can target multiple states. Then you can get a pretty big pool of potential prospects. And if you have a really killer offer inside of problem, agitate, solve, and you can speak to their hot buttons, speak to their pain, speak to their fears, speak to their frustrations, then you've got something to work with. And your solution should be something educational. So instead of like, hey, I can solve your problem, call today for a mortgage, that's a great way to leave a lot of potential prospects on the table, because not everyone's ready to just call you up and get a mortgage now, but they may be ready to watch your masterclass. Right. And so now you're giving them what they want, which is valuable information and advice. And you're removing the fear of what they don't want, which is a sales pitch. Some
Right.
strong-armed sleazebag salesperson trying to sell them something, trying to hawk mortgages. So that's another thing I highly recommend you use education. And the best way to do that, as far as I've found doing this for many years, is videos. Do video. Some people call it a masterclass. So some people call it a webinar. The big idea, though, is use a video that's educational. And so what happens is they're scrolling, they see the image or they see the video, it grabs their attention because it speaks to their hot buttons and their pain, and then it guides them to the solution. And when they click, most people will send Facebook traffic to what's called a squeeze page or a lead magnet page, right? And the problem with those is that maybe at best you're going to have 20% opt in. So then you have 80% who just bounce off the page. What I found, there's an amazing system that I've been using over the last year that works. Well, it took a while to get it to work, but now that I have it working, it's been way lower cost per lead and way lower cost per appointment than anything else I've ever tried. It's called eBoov, EBOOV, eBoov. It's this amazing technology that allows you to package your masterclass into a video that is the content that you would want to send someone to. If you send them to that squeeze page after they opt in, you're going to send them that video anyway, right? So the real thing that you want your prospect to do is watch that video. But unfortunately, because of the way the squeeze page works, eBoov calls it the brick wall page, where they just bounce their head off the wall and they leave. 80% of the people you send traffic to that you're paying for traffic for are bouncing and leaving and never watching that video. Whereas with eBoov, and again, it wasn't super easy for me to get it to work initially. It's taken me about 6 months to actually nurture it and get it dialed in such that it's actually a better result than what I got with the previous system. But now that I've got it dialed in, what happens is when people click your ad, instead of going to the brick wall page, they go to your video and they're able to watch it right away. So the very video that you wanted them to see anyways, now they can go and play and watch it. Now, here's where it gets cool. You can engineer that video so that it has a cliffhanger. And it's usually kind of like in the first 3 minutes. So you're speaking to their hot buttons. You're letting them know the problem that you're going to help them solve. and letting them know the outcome they're able to achieve with the solution you provide without the suck of the normal things that they're having to deal with. And then you give a little cliffhanger, just like they do right before commercial on TV, right? The cliffhanger. So you guys know, because you've seen this time and time again, and what they need to enter in the name and email address in order to watch more. You can also ask for their phone number, but of course that's going to suppress response. So just ask for their name and email address in order to watch more. And at that point, if you've engineered your video correctly and you've hooked their hot buttons, they're going to be chomping at the bit to want to watch the rest of the video. What I've been able to do is convert 20%, 21% of the people who click to watch that video to opt in. So it's about the same as my brick wall page. But the amazing thing is, I'm able to build two lists with eBooth. One is the people who opt in. The other is a retargeting list, because the brilliant thing about eBooth is it allows you to retarget anyone who clicks on that video, even if they click and watch for 1 second.
Incredible.
And then you're able to target people who've watched 25% of your video, 50% of your video, 75% of your video, and so on. So you can now, as you build a bigger and bigger list of retargeting in your retargeting audience, you can start to calibrate from the 25%ers to the 50%ers to the 75%ers. And you can imagine people who've watched 75% of your video are a much better caliber quality prospect than someone who's watched 25% of your video, right?
Yes.
So that's been a game changer for me when it comes to cost per click, or rather cost per lead and cost per appointment. So check it out. eBooth, amazing system. Hardly anyone uses it. I've hardly seen anyone use this system. So it will certainly give you the unfair advantage. But of course, you have to have a killer video. So make sure you're hiring a professional video editor to make your video like really dialed in and compelling to watch. Get some good audio equipment, and just make sure your audio and your video is top notch, because you only have one chance to make a great first impression. But keep in mind, the retargeting power that eBooth gives you is the game changer. Retargeting clicks are way more economical than direct top of funnel clicks. It's like a fraction, maybe 10% of the cost. So where your real winning happens is in the retargeting. Is that making sense so far, Penny?
Yes, absolutely. And it brings us right back to question number 1 with point number 3, which was all about, trying to do it yourself. You mentioned there, have a killer video, right? And so, it's going to help if you're going to do this type of thing, right? So if you're going to jump into the Facebook ad world, don't do it alone. That's the one word of advice here that I think's really sticking, with everything you've talked about so far. That one's definitely a big one that's sticking out. And then also, really about the wrong order of priorities too. I think that one's really sticking out as well. Everything you've talked about so far today. So it's really sticking here for me, for sure. Definitely. Yes.
It reminds me of Alex Hormozy. He has a great line. He talks about the cost of ignorance, and he calls it ignorance debt. And ignorance debt is another way of saying the tuition, the hefty tuition of the University of not knowing, right? Not knowing how to thread the needle on these Facebook ads, not knowing how to attract top producing realtors, not knowing how to mine the gold from your database. There's ignorance debt there that is a high interest, high cost, a high carrying cost, if you will. And it's usually much more strategic and advantageous to make a strategic, intelligent investment in your own education, so you no longer have to pay that ignorance debt. And you can take all that carrying cost and just axe it and start to now reap the rewards of knowing how to do these things the right way, the smart way. So you no longer have to pay the hefty tuition to the University of not knowing, if you will.
Yes, absolutely.
And there's a lot to this, right? But another thing I should mention before we move on to the next question is, you want to make sure you guys are taking advantage of follow-up with your ads. Like, you've heard that the fortune's in the follow-up, and that's the case, and it always will be. You can't afford to have a Facebook ad campaign going and just be rocking an Excel spreadsheet, that's not going to work well for you. You need a CRM, a client relationship management system. The best CRM is one you use. Make sure you're using all media types possible: email, text message, phone, whatever you need to do, Morse code. I don't care what you need to do, smoke signals, whatever you need to do to get a hold of these people. And continue to follow up until they die by, tell you to stop. If you don't have time for that, consider hiring a telemarketer. I found an amazing telemarketer off Upwork, believe it or not, upwork.com. It's an amazing freelance portal. It's kind of like Amazon for sourcing freelancers. It's all based on success and reviews, so you can see who's legit, who's not, based on their job success rate. Having an appointment setter has been a game changer for me in terms of converting leads, because instead of just relying on email, now I get someone to actually follow up with these people. If you don't have their phone number, that's one of the things that's great about business to business, like going after realtors, for example, is you can get their phone number. You can reverse engineer by just having a virtual assistant searching their name and finding their phone number, and then you can get an appointment setter to call these people. You can also set it up so when your CRM, anyone clicks on anything on any of your marketing in your CRM, it goes onto a Google sheet, and your appointment setter calls these people to book an appointment. So notice how you're using technology to reach these people in every means, every viable media type possible to try to get them on the phone. It's the phone where all the magic happens. That's where all the action gains traction, is on the phone. So you want to keep following up using all those different media types. Another thing, now that we're, almost turning a leaf on 2024 and entering 2025, that's kind of the latest and greatest, is AI-driven SMS bots. So that's another thing you might want to consider adding to your stable of follow-up, is getting yourself an AI-powered SMS bot. We're testing this right now with a few beta testers, and it's very, very fresh, relatively new still, but it has so much power because it's like having a virtual assistant reaching out to prospects to convert them to appointments any time you want. 5 days a week, 7 days a week. We generally work just 5 days a week, so we don't want to annoy people on the weekends. And during normal business hours, it's doing all that heavy lifting for you. They never call in sick. They never call and say they just, had their dog die or got in a fight with the spouse or whatever the drama is that normal human beings go through, right? It's just consistent, and you can engineer it to feel very human from the recipient's perspective, where it feels like very authentic and real. And it's an incredible time-saving tool. So stay tuned. We're going to be, as we get more data on our beta entry, or rather beta testing, we're going to do a podcast on the results we get from this. So stay tuned. Hopefully within the next month or 2 or 3, we'll do a special episode just on AI-powered SMS bots and the beta testing we've done. And we'll share whatever we've discovered there, and give you guys what's cutting edge versus trailing edge, bleeding edge, because staying cutting edge is mission critical. So hopefully I didn't give you too much information there. I felt like I kind of gave you a show up and throw up data out there, Penny, but those are a few things for people to consider when it comes to Facebook ads.
Well, this is very exciting. All of this is very, very exciting today. So let's jump into our final question for today, which is, if someone realizes that Facebook ads are just a little bit too much for them, there's too much squeeze, not enough juice, as we like to put it here on Planet Prosper, what should they do instead? What should they be doing?
It's a really good question. Mm-hmm. And most mortgage pros would benefit enormously just by coming to the conclusion that going after Facebook ads, especially if you're new or if you're not doing 5 to 10 plus deals a month, is probably not a good idea. So if all you got from this episode is like, wow, I'm glad I steered clear of that landmine, that would have been costly, and I'm not into wasting my time, energy, and money. So thank you for the clarity. I think that's worth your time in this episode in and of itself. But there's a whole lot more juice we can squeeze from the fruit when it comes to what to do in replace of or in advance of going after Facebook ads. So let's talk about that. I always recommend referrals, because if you've been in the business for more than a day, you know that referrals are where it's at when it comes to quality leads, right? It's where it's at. It's about quality over quantity, right? I'd much rather have one referral from a client or one referral from a referral partner, like a top producing realtor, over 30, 40, 50 crappy leads off the internet. Think about that, right? It's so streamlined. It's so efficient. You can convert 50%, maybe as little as 25% on a referral from a client or a referral partner versus 1 or 2% on Facebook leads. You think about the efficiency, again, it's the outcome we're going for, right? We're not going for being busy, we're going for being productive. There's a big difference between activity and productivity. And at the end of the day, it's profit, right? Referrals will give you the highest caliber borrower, higher average commission per deal, especially if it comes from a top producing realtor, which is why I'm a big fan of attracting top producing realtors. Because number one, when the market goes down the toilet, all the bottom feeders and the mediocre middle and the struggle bunnies, they go with it. They get purged. There's a huge market enema, right? They get flushed out. And you don't want to go with them. You don't want to have your cart hitched to a dead or dying horse. And most of these struggle bunnies and part-timers and mediocre middle, they've been getting chewed up and spat out over the last 3 years. You don't want to go with them. So that's why we recommend going after the top dogs, because those are the guys who are taking market share. But you might be thinking, Dorn, I've tried going after those guys. They're prima donnas, they're drama queens. They won't give me the time of day. It sounds good in theory, Doran, but when it comes to application, that is not an easy thing to thread the needle on. I've already banged my head against that wall, Doran. Thanks, but no thanks. To which I would say, if you don't like working with realtors in general or top producers in particular, it's a bit like saying you don't like sex. You're probably doing it wrong. Just saying, right? It's not that the top dogs are a problem. It's that your system, your approach was the problem. But here's the kicker. That's a big reason why smart, ambitious, growth-minded mortgage pros hire us, is to learn how to do that, because you can't just Google search this stuff, right? You can't just watch something online and figure this stuff out for free. That's just not going to happen. You know that. I know that. Penny knows that. So this is where ignorance tax, ignorance debt, ignorance interest starts to really incur. And it's a heavy cost, because every month you don't know how to do this. It's costing you tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars going to your competitors because you don't know what you don't know. But once you know, now you have the holy grail to win in any market, not just a fair weather market. And think about it. All you need is like maybe 3 to 10 top dogs who make you their go-to, who are doing 15 plus buyer sides a year, who can send you 1, 2, 3 deals a month to make freedom money, right? To be able to do what you want, when you want, with whom you want, anytime you want. So it doesn't take many to change your life. We're not talking backflips. So that's one area I highly recommend focusing on, because it's the shortest path to the cash. There is no shorter path to the cash, and there's no other method to grow your business that's more expedient than aligning with top producing realtors. It's the single most profitable skill in your business, bar none. And yet most mortgage pros are oblivious to it. They're clueless about it, and they never bother to invest or to pursue mastery in gaining that skill. And that's why most of them are on the struggle bus. That's why most of them get chewed up and spat out within the first 2 years. 80% of mortgage pros get chewed up and spat out in the first 2 years. That's the failure rate in this business. And those who survive, the average income is only $75K. And that's before tax, not after tax. We're talking $50K is the average income of a mortgage pro if they can survive the first 2 years. Why? That's a lot of ignorance debt. It's a lot of tuition they're paying to the University of Not Knowing. So that would be the single most important one to focus on, Penny, is learning the secret sauce and mastering the skill, the mindset and the skill set of attracting top producing realtors. And then, of course, I would be remiss to also not mention mining the gold from the database, because as you're generating leads, you need to convert those leads into applications and closing. You need to follow up with them. They often need multiple touches, as many as 7 touches before they convert. And then once you close them, your job is not done. It's just begun. Now you need to nurture them long-term, stay in touch, remind them you're in their corner, remind them that you care, remind them that you're the expert, you're the authority, you're a value-added advisor, you're always providing advice and tips on financial literacy, home maintenance, mortgage, real estate tips, so that when they think mortgage, boom, you're the only logical choice, right? They wouldn't even consider working with anyone else because of the awesome you continue to bring to them week in, week out. And you're using all the different media, right? Text message, email, phone, direct mail, smoke signals, like we talked about earlier. Like you're using everything. You're even friending these people on Facebook, and you're staying connected so that when you go on your adventures, or you going skiing, or you're going hunting, or you're going to the lake, or you're going to Disneyland, or whatever it is that you're doing in your day-to-day life, so you're making some scrambled eggs. I don't care, right? They're connected to your life, right? They're connected to the real, raw, authentic journey that is your life. And that's the whole point of friending people on Facebook, is they get to see your inner world. So that would be a huge thing. And last but not least, I highly recommend, if you want to build a stable of top producing realtors, build a Facebook group for realtors, but not just any realtor. Only invite people who are doing solid business, especially on the buyer side, like 15 plus buyer sides a year, successful rock star realtors. Build a stable of those realtors in a Facebook group, a private Facebook group. And you might call it something like Close the Deal with Penny. And so it's reminding them this Facebook group is about closing deals. And then you're always adding value, tips, advice on how to close deals. Well, Doran, I don't know how to help realtors close deals. I'm a mortgage pro. I'm not a realtor. Did you know there's an innumerable amount of audiobooks and written books and Kindle books that are on the topic of real estate marketing? Did you know that you can listen to an audiobook at 2x speed, and you can get a book in a week listening to it while you're clanging and banging in the gym, or you're on the bicycle, or whatever it happens to be as your exercise routine? Learn and burn, we call it here on Planet Prosper. Did you know that every time you learn a way to help your partners win and you share that in your Facebook group, you become more valuable to them? They're more likely to want to work with you because you're not a lone leech. You're not the annoying pest. You're the welcome guest. You're actually bringing value versus trying to leech loans all the time like all your competitors. Right? You can see that the strategy here is about bringing value. And then the cool thing is you just reach out to them through private message on Facebook using Messenger, and just welcome them to the group. And then guess what? You can get a virtual assistant to follow a matrix. You can build a little bit of a reach out matrix. And they're basically just saying, hey, welcome to the group. And hey, by the way, are you here for the content, or are you looking for a way to scale your business? I'm looking for a way to scale my business. Okay, cool. Would you be open to having a conversation with Penny about how she can help you bring in more buyers and sellers and take your business to the next level? Boom, shakalaka. Now you got a discovery meeting, and your virtual assistant can do that all through private message while you're doing what you're doing, meeting with clients, meeting with partners, and cashing checks.
Brilliant.
So stick that in your pipe and smoke it. Marinate your mind on that for a moment. There's lots of ways to do it without having to mess around with crappy leads off Facebook.
Yes. That is absolutely brilliant. Look at that. Boom. Mic drop right there.
Roger. And the crowd goes, yeah. I love the shot. Always put it wild at just the right time. It's amazing how that happens.
Well, there's been just a huge, absolute huge wealth of knowledge shared here today, Doran. Thank you so much for sharing all of this today. I think, as a mortgage pro myself, and I've done Facebook ads before, and I can honestly say that, when it comes down to it, you're absolutely right. Going to build those relationships with the referral partners is absolute mission critical. That is what has absolutely worked for me. It's what's worked for every other professional that I know that is, hitting those top numbers as well. It really is the key to the business. And I've done the Facebook ads too, and I had some success at some point too. But at the end of the day, what really moved the dial really was building those partners. It was the big thing. But you've shared some really great points here today too, so that, if someone does want to try the Facebook ads, you've shared some really good points too, so that if they want to take a stab at it, hey, here's some great points. So I thank you so much for sharing these points today. I think it's great. And yeah, please share with us a little bit more on how we can, get in touch with you if we'd like to learn a little bit more about how you can help us.
For sure. And before we get into that, I feel led to share something that's been on my mind lately, because I've been speaking with mortgage pros over the last couple of weeks, and a theme that seems to be like a thread woven through most of those conversations is that there's a lot of mortgage pros I've been speaking with who have amazing talent. They really care about their clients. They go the extra mile. They're amazing technicians, if you will, of the mortgage game when it comes to the fulfillment, the operations, finding a home for the loan, getting the deal done, closed, 5-star reviews. Like, they're exceptional at what they do. But they're in a prison of their own making because they soften the problem of being in the prison of their own making that keeps them stuck in the same old rut, doing the same old thing. By that, I mean, for example, there's a guy I was speaking with, and he keeps saying, I'm making $100,000 a year, working 10, 20 hours a week. Like, the guy's hardly working, right? And he says, I'm making doctor money, I'm making doctor money per hour. Meanwhile, he wants to grow, but he keeps softening the problem by overinflating how successful he is, because chances are he's like me, and he has some degree of imposter syndrome that has riddled him. I certainly had that. Not so much anymore, thankfully, because I've been able to do some mindset enema work to flush out all that garbage in my brain, all that mind trash. But when we're insecure, we need to kind of fluff our feathers and hype ourselves up. And we live in this delusional optimism land. And so he's like, yeah, I'm making doctor money per hour, but he's only working 2 hours a day, right?
Right.
And then he's not taking into account business expenses and taxes.
Yeah.
And he's not taking into account that people come to him for advice because he's such a badass at what he does that are doing 2x, 3x, 5x his production. But they come to him for the technical advice because he's so good at it. But when you look at his numbers, you'd never know. But he doesn't let that piss him off. And that's the problem. He doesn't let it piss him off such that he's just interested in growing his business. He's not really committed. It's just a should. He should grow his business. It's not a must. The problem when it's a should is we rarely get our shoulds. We always get our musts.
Yes.
So the reason why he's in a prison of his own making is because he keeps softening the problem, and it doesn't allow himself to get from his head to his heart in terms of what sucks the most about doing good, because he's doing pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't get connected to what sucks the most about being in the prison of good when he knows he's capable of great.
Yes.
And so that's what I call positive pain. When you let yourself go from your head to your heart, and you actually let it pierce your soul, let it pierce your heart. Like, this freaking sucks. I'm sick and tired of scratching around the chicken yard with the chickens when I know I'm called to be an eagle, when I know I'm capable of being an eagle. Whew, getting God bumps, goosebumps right now, because that's the rocket fuel in your rocket, guys. All this other stuff about Facebook ads, going after realtors, frankly, none of it is going to have any consequence in your life and your business until you get sick and tired of being sick and tired of spinning your wheels in the same spot and settling for way less than you're capable of, being a prisoner of your own making and being in the stagnation rut that has you spinning your wheels in the same spot. And do you feel my energy? Do you feel my emotions?
Yes.
Right? It's getting yourself in your heart around that, because if you stay in your head, you're dead. You got to get in your heart around this. And it's that soul alchemy that Jim Rohn, the late and great Jim Rohn, talked about when he said, to change your life, you need to get to the point of disgust and resolve.
Yes.
That's the soul alchemy of transformation. When you allow yourself to feel that pain such that you're not willing to go one more day doing it the hard way. I call that defiant commitment or defiant resolve, such that you go from just having it be a should, I should grow my business, I should be more proactive, I should be more productive, and feeling shitty about the situation, shoulding all over yourself, right? You go from all that should storm of shooting all over yourself to being like, enough is enough, no more, I've had it, I'm done with this. The buck stops here. Enough is enough, no more, I've had it. Now you're ready to change your life. Now you're ready to thrive in 2025. Now you're ready to make more money in 1 month, you used to make in 3, 4, 5, 6 months. Why? Because you raised your standards, because you went from a should to a must, because you will rarely get your shoulds, but you will always get your musts. Are you with me on that, Penny?
I am.
Yeah.
I am, because I've been in exactly the spot you are talking about right now. That's what made me make that decision all those years ago, right? Was that you get to a point where you sit in this spot and you're just going, you know what? I can do better. I deserve better. And I want better. Mm-hmm. Right. And you kind of sit and you take that moment and you look at your life and you're like, I can do this, And you're right. It's no longer about the shoulds. It's about the, I want, I can, and I deserve. Right.
Yes.
And then you go for it.
And
Because
I resolve.
it's that resolve. It's exactly it. You literally, it's that you put your foot down.
That's right.
It really is. It's that moment, right? Where you just put your foot down and you're like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to do this thing. Right.
Throwing down the gauntlet.
You got it.
Enough is enough. No more. I've had it.
And
that was information for you. And you were doing good. You were doing better than most. You could have easily softened the problem and say, hey, I'm making 6 figures. I'm doing better than most. I'm a top producer, blah, blah, blah.
That's right.
But you were still playing way under your potential. Yes. And, you were a 500 horsepower Ferrari, but you were in like second gear, half throttle. You weren't even close to tapping all the gears and getting to the RPM of you really to tap into that horsepower, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So, yeah. And telling the lesson.
I'm still shifting those gears even now, right?
Yeah.
Like I still
always that next level.
Gears are still shifting, but the gears are shifting and that's good. And I like that. And I like being that gear shifter. So that's good.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
So if you're listening to this,
going.
Absolutely. You heard it in Penny's story. You chances are you're connecting with your own story and what we're talking about. And if you are listening to this and you're capable of so much more, you're like Penny was back in 2018. Maybe you're doing good. Maybe you're doing better than most, but you're capable of more. Or maybe based on your own admission, you're doing terrible and you've slidden down the mountain from where you used to be and you're feeling beat up and tattered and battered and depressed and deflated. Wherever you find yourself on the continuum, one thing I know for certain that if you decide that you're not going to have another 2024, you're not going to flatline, you're not going to collect moss and collect dust, and you're not going to grow mold and just allow yourself to stay in the same spot, but you refuse to lose, and staying in the same spot is losing. You refuse to stagnate. If that's you, and you feel in your heart, there's a certain degree of disgust and resolve that is settling deep in your soul where it's like, enough is enough, no more. I've had it. I'm ready to soar higher. I'm ready to break free from the cage and spread my wings and soar because it's my calling. It's my purpose. It's my mission. If that's you and you are 100% commission residential mortgage pro, you make 70 basis points or higher, and you want to add at least an extra $100,000 or more to your commission in 2025. And that doing the same old things and getting the same old results is the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same old thing, expecting a different result, that's the definition of insanity. If you know that, and that trying this thing on your own in your own silo, being an island in and of yourself is not serving you to you tapping your full potential, and you're open to exploring new, better, more efficient, optimal ways of growing your business, then I invite you to book a complimentary breakthrough call where you can meet with either myself or one of my consultants, and we're just going to have an honest conversation. We're just going to connect. We're going to ask you some questions to illuminate your situation. Where are you now? Where do you want to be? And if we can help be the launching pad to take you from where you are to where you want to be with our proven system, we'll show you what that looks like. And if not, frankly, we'll be the first to advise you to pass. Perhaps we'll recommend something else or someone else. But either way, our goal for you on this call is to bring the power of clarity, because clarity is power. You can't create a breakthrough without clarity. So we're going to serve you to massive clarity, massive value, and chances are we're going to have some fun. Unless you're not a very fun person, then we won't. I'm just playing with you. But for real though, this is a clarity call. And so if that sounds meaningful and worthwhile to you, go ahead and book a call, mortgagemarketingcoach.com/chat. Again, that's mortgagemarketingcoach.com/chat. So go ahead and book a call and let's support you to thrive in 2025. And if you got value from today, may I remind you to subscribe to our podcast wherever you got the podcast, such as iTunes. Make sure you don't miss future episodes. As well, thank you. Thank you in advance for sharing this episode with friends, colleagues, other people who are wanting to soar higher in the mortgage industry. And if you feel that we deserve a 5-star review, please do. It helps us reach other awesome mortgage pros just like you. So thank you in advance for that. And Penny, thanks for hanging with us. Thank you for being an amazing host and co-partner, co-pilot on this podcast. It would not be the same without you.
Oh, thank you again for having me. It's been an absolute blast today. I always love doing these with you, and I can't wait to do it again.
And likewise, we got a whole lot more in store, guys. So stay tuned. Remember, the more we grow, the more our income grows, right? Our business is like a personal development course with a compensation plan attached. The more we grow, the more our income grows. So don't just go to that next level. Let's grow to that next level. Thanks for hanging with us. Again, this is Doran Aldana with the one and only Penny Wrightly, Art of Mortgage Marketing podcast. We'll see you on the next episode.